anything we can do for our riverfront to attract people to it is, I think, a positive factor.
Right now on News 8, changing the landscape in two river towns, why an old Davenport attraction could anchor upriver in Clinton.
And closing the budget gap with a new revenue stream, why some Illinois lawmakers think marijuana could solve the state's money problems.
Live from WQAD, News 8 at 5 starts now.
Good evening, I'm Jim Mertens.
And I'm Denise Sinitka. Thank you for joining us tonight at 5. Well, the old Rhythm City barge on the Davenport riverfront could be donated. The general manager tells News 8 tonight that the company offered it to the city of Clinton and Living Lands and Waters. But as News 8's Christina Hepner explains, it may not make financial sense for Clinton to accept it.
Denise, Rhythm City has until the end of this month to move this barge. The company's been trying to sell it, but it hasn't found a buyer. Now it could be donated. Rhythm City could donate this barge to the city of Clinton.
Sure, we'll take a look, but we'll do some due diligence because, you know, you should never look a gift barge in the mouth.
The city says the company contacted them last month about the opportunity.
Anything we can do for our riverfront to attract people to it is, I think, a positive factor.
But it would be a costly venture. Getting it to Clinton, then connecting the barge to sewer and water could cost more than $560,000.
From tugging it up through the locks and getting here is about $100,000, and then you got to have gas, electric, sewer, water, get that all hooked up. And then we haven't even talked about getting inside of it.
The city administrator says he only sees it happening if someone is willing to invest in the barge. If not, the cost to maintain it would fall on the city.
So say no business comes forward and then we have this, you know, you just can't have one or two conference centers, you know, center meetings a year, you won't make any money back on it. So then we're paying, you know, anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000 a month to keep the heat on in the winter.
Brooke says with the Clinton riverfront already having the Showboat Theater and Candlelight Inn, financially, it doesn't look like a good investment.
Is the juice worth the squeeze? It's going to cost a lot of money to move it. It's going to cost a lot of money to set it up. And in order to do that, are we willing to give up other projects for this?
But the decision will be up to the city council. Clinton City Administrator will present the numbers to move this barge at Tuesday night's Committee of the Whole meeting. And from then, the council will decide to move it to their agenda on April 11th. Reporting live in Davenport, Christina Hepner, WQAD News 8.
And we also talked with Chad Brogracki from Living Lands and Waters. He says he will take the barge if he's offered it. He says he will find out for sure on April 12th after the Clinton City Council decides whether or not it wants to move forward.
MOLINE leaders say you can expect several changes that will bring a new look to the city. During today's State of the City address, they laid out expectations for the next year. They say construction and transportation projects are helping MOLINE to stay modern. The Q and the Element Hotel will be a centerpiece for downtown MOLINE and passenger rail service. The expansion of John Deere Road expected to boost business growth, and a massive 4-year project to build a new Interstate 74 bridge is huge for the area.
It will be a phenomenal structure in the heart of the Quad Cities, and the state of Illinois and Iowa are ready.
The expansion along the John Deere corridor is just part of the plans. A new Olive Garden, Popeye's Chicken, and Panda Express will open in the next few months. There's also a push to use old buildings for new retail and housing opportunities. Tomorrow there will be a meeting on the John Deere Road construction project. Contractors and the Illinois Transportation Department will answer questions about the project. It'll be held at the MOLINE Public Library. The meeting is open to the public and will start at 3:30 in the afternoon.
Some residents of Barstow aren't happy with the county's plan to tear out a man-made levee there. Rock Island County used a federal grant to buy a former trailer park in a low-lying area of town. It includes a portion of dirt and sand barrier, which the county says doesn't meet state standards. Some people there say that the barrier's been there about 40 years and has helped protect the town from flooding. Well, the county says that's not true. The structure isn't safe and has to go.
But some would say it's not pretty, but it's held some water back. Why not leave it?
Why do we keep wanting to giving people false sense of security that this is protecting them? Why do we want to keep telling residents out there that you're safe? This has done this for a while. Every levee's safe until it blows.
The county is holding an informational meeting on April 5th. with the Department of Natural Resources and the Corps of Engineers to answer questions and concerns from the public.
We start the work week with clouds and some rain, and that's the trend we will probably see for a couple days now.
Chief Meteorologist James Zahara joins us with a first check of the forecast. Hi there, James.
Hi,
happy
guys.
Monday.
Oh, yes. Happy Monday to you guys as well. Unfortunately, it did start a little gray out there, and for some of our hometowns, especially just south of the Quad Cities, we have been seeing some raindrops out there, especially along Highway 34 from Mount Pleasant to Burlington, right around Monmouth, going to Galesburg. That's where we've been seeing some of that rain, but just enough to kind of wet the pavement. That system has now pulled its way off to the east. Still a lot of clouds around the area. Temperatures, aren't too bad. These are pretty close to seasonal, with readings we're seeing around the lower 50s in many of our hometowns. 53 degrees in the Quad Cities with a light north breeze around 6 miles an hour. But even with the clouds, it is dry, and that's a stretch we'll see for a little bit longer. Not a great one. In fact, we do see some very active weather rolling on in here as we go through the week. We'll tell you where these weather systems are that will bring us the next round of wet weather coming up in just a few minutes. Denise?
Thank you, James. We are following a developing story in Davenport after a police officer was involved in a crash. The Iowa State Patrol is now in charge of the investigation.
It happened just after 1:30 this morning at the corner of Kimberly Road and Sturtevant Street. The Davenport officer's squad car was heavily damaged in the crash, as you can see. So far, Davenport police have not released the details about the accident, but we are told there were only minor injuries. An Oklahoma police officer has died after a shooting during a traffic stop last night. Tecumseh police say after Officer Justin Turney pulled over a suspect, someone in that vehicle jumped out and started running. The suspect then started shooting at Turney, who shot back. Turney was hit several times in the lower part of his body and died this morning. He had graduated from the academy last year. The shooting suspect was also shot and is now hospitalized. Investigators are trying to figure out why an immigration agent shot a Chicago man while trying to make an arrest. This happened just before 6 this morning. According to ICE officials, the special agent was trying to arrest a suspect when a second person pointed a weapon at agents. ICE officials say its Office of Professional Responsibility will review the shooting. There are no details about why immigration officials were even at the house.
A family of 4 is safe tonight after their house caught fire. That fire started just after midnight in the 800 block of 15th Street. 4 people were inside the house when it happened. The Rock Island Fire Department says it took more than an hour to get that fire under control. Damage to the house is estimated at more than $80,000. An Illinois man accused of kidnapping an Erie couple for money is expected back in court tomorrow. Chad Skipper is scheduled to appear in Whiteside County Court tomorrow. Court documents say that he handcuffed Larry and Connie Van Oosten to their bed, then threatened to shoot them if they didn't pay him $350,000. Prosecutors say the couple was found safe inside a home owned by Skipper and Geneseo. He has pleaded not guilty to 16 felony charges.
And we continue our coverage of the first 100 days of President Donald Trump with the latest fallout from the American Health Care Act. Last week, the president focused the blame on the failure on Democrats. Now he says some Republicans are to blame. The president says far-right Republicans are the reason the House had to scrap the bill before any vote was taken. He singled out the House Freedom Caucus and a conservative interest group. The president said Republicans will put together a great health care plan when Obamacare explodes, but he may not have the same support from his own party.
So they let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And you're never going to get a perfect piece of legislation that an individual, conservatives, approve of in the House of Representatives, because there are 215 other members of the House who are Republicans that we have to work with to move the ball forward to lead. We are in charge. Let us lead.
Oh, I think right now, look, you move forward. If I were giving advice to the president, if they want to take my advice, I would recommend they pivot to infrastructure now, because that issue, I think, has the best opportunity to develop some kind of bipartisan coalition that in the House and the Senate. That's what I would do if they were asking my advice.
President Trump says his next project will be to change the country's complicated tax code.
Lawmakers from Iowa say they'll keep working on health care behind the scenes. Congressman Rod Bloom from Iowa says the last effort was rushed and the party needs more time to craft legislation that can get more support. Meanwhile, Iowa U.S. Senator Chuck Grassley says the Affordable Care Act is in a death spiral.
We've got to be there to rescue the people that will be left wanting when Obamacare sinks.
Grassley was critical of the Congressional Budget Office report that said 14 million people would lose coverage under the Republican plan. He says that same agency reported that the Affordable Care Act was actually underestimating how much it would cost by hundreds of billions of dollars. Grassley also says that a vote on Supreme Court nominee Judge Neil Gorsuch is set for next month. At least 17 Democrats and independents have announced their opposition to Gorsuch, and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer has promised to filibuster. The Senate Judiciary Committee is now scheduled to vote April 3rd.
Lawmakers in Illinois are taking another look at the marijuana industry to help climb out of the current state budget crisis. News 8's Lauren Simone tells us about a new bill that's being introduced and what it could mean for medical marijuana shops in our area.
Here at Nature's Treatment of Illinois, patients can come up to this window to get their medical marijuana. Now the state is looking into new ways to cash in on this growing business. It's been over a year since Nature's Treatment of Illinois opened its doors to patients looking for medical marijuana.
How do people cure themselves?
And manager Ron Glassner says they've seen a lot of growth.
The patient population has picked up. We're at about 330 patients now, since starting from zero.
It's a business that's made the state about $2 million in 2016. Now, lawmakers have introduced a bill to legalize recreational use of pot for people 21 and older. They can grow it, buy it, and give a licensed business like Nature's Treatment the green light to sell it.
If you have a medical card, you go to one side of the room or one side of the building, and if you're going in for recreational, you go to the other side. The regulation is no different.
Illinois State Representative Kelly Cassidy from Chicago introduced the bill to help solve the state's budget problems. If approved, this could generate up to $700 million.
That is not looking at job creation or business development or corporate taxes or tourism dollars or savings at the state and local levels for law enforcement and incarceration costs.
But there's still a few things lawmakers will have to discuss, like how far the state will go to enforce the new regulation.
So on the medical side, people have to have state-approved fingerprints, background checks, things like that. Depends on if they go that far with recreational, which I don't know. The process could be similar.
Part of a potential solution to get out of the Illinois budget crisis. Representative Cassidy says it's going to be a long time before this bill can become a law. It still needs the majority vote from the House and the Senate and a signature from the governor. Reporting in Milan, Lauren Simone, WQAD News 8.
If the bill is passed, this will make Illinois the first state in the Midwest to legalize the recreational use of marijuana. The new law would allow people to have a possession of up to 28 grams. State leaders in Colorado are weighing a plan to protect their growing marijuana industry. A new proposed bill would allow marijuana growers to reclassify recreational pot as medical. The change would protect growers from a potential federal crackdown under President Trump, who is against recreational marijuana. But right now, it's still unclear how the Trump administration will treat the marijuana industry. Still ahead at 5, giving police officers more options.
Why Iowa lawmakers could change the way officers handle drivers texting behind the wheel.
And we're going to get to dry out just for a little bit, but I already see our next round of wet weather. In fact, I see 2. Okay, I'll tell you where they are and when they're going to arrive coming up right after the break here on News 8 at 5.
You're watching WQAD News 8 at 5 with Jim Mertens and Denise Hanitka.